Well, hey, folks. I was sorry about the delay there. I got called away. I just got a phone call, so put that around there. Um, yeah, I had to get up just I was ready to go, and I got a phone call, so back at it here now. Anyway, um, point of this video is basically just going through the Cumann system, which would be the most of these would know the basics of it or the general idea behind it anyway. But just kind of going into different different groups have uh, different ways of structuring themselves basically to get the most effective result out of the manpower that they have. I would have come from a political party when I was young, would use the Cumann system. So I'd be more, I'd know more about that than most of the other political parties. Like they all have some version of it. But yeah, I'll kind of go through the basics of it and why it's important. So basically, the Cumann system, you could say it kind of originated, in a context of political and Irish nationalist circles through a fella called James Stephens. He would have been he was the founder of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Is actually a very, very interesting story. He started the Irish Republican Brotherhood by basically walking. I think it was 3,000 miles or something, zigzagging across Ireland, visiting houses and all that kind of crack, calling into people and saying, "Look, this is what we're doing." And organizing people into groups basically, and it is a kind of a military system. The IRB obviously was a kind of a clandestine military guerrilla, I suppose, organization, but it's morphed over the years into a kind of, different groups have kind of warped it or changed it or tweaked it to suit their own circumstances and needs at the time. So, like if you look at, say, the ARA in, when they were active, they basically called their Cumanns active service units, and they had a captain who was basically the chairman of the Cumann, and obviously they were on a highly, supposedly anyway, without infiltration, they were on a highly secretive kind of basis. Basically, the Cumann members didn't know each other, and that the leader was the only guy that kind of knew how to contact everyone in the group. So basically, like this, people couldn't squeal if they wanted to, if they were caught. But anyways, that's the military side of it. But on the political side of it, basically you have, we'll say, a movement of a person. Someone has an idea one day that they want to start a group to achieve political or any aim whatsoever, really, and a couple of guys agree with them. Well, usually, naturally, the person that came up with the idea will generally kind of be in charge of the situation, at least in the beginning anyway, and they'll delegate out a couple of jobs, whether it's spoken or unspoken. People will kind of be like, "Oh, well, obviously this is what I have to do," or else someone will be like, "Will you be able to do this for me?" And basically, when you get into a kind of a complicated system where you have a large number on the ground level, basically, or not the leaders, not the leader, you kind of have to organize to become as effective as possible. So, the way the Irish political system has been set up is basically you have localized groups based on a geographical area, and I'll use the Shinners and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are the same basically, but they all call it kind of different names, But with the Shinners you have the Cumann, which is basically a group of about 10 people roughly, usually in a town or an area, and they have a system whereby you have a chairman who kind of maintains order in the group. You have a secretary who basically does all the contacting people, making sure everything's running correctly. Uh, is the liaison officer with the higher ups in the party, and you have a treasurer usually like that'll handle all the financial side of things. Um, so that'll be the basic principle of a common. Below that, then you'd have the general membership in that area, and basically between themselves, they'll figure out what needs to be done, who's the best able to lead the charge on it, and then they'll create technically there may be like a little subcommittee that is in charge of that situation. So just going to check something here. So you basically have a nice little unit, basically, like as I said, the IRA, like the active service unit or whatever. And sorry, I'm just checking the chat here. See, but yeah, sorry. The service unit or the common, basically is the wing of that organization in that area. Whenever you have multiple wings, like say county wise, you have say one in Donegal, one in Sligo, one in Mayo. You generally need someone to kind of oversee the group then, and the way it works in the Sinn Féin system, once you get to county level, which is it's called the Dáil Cantor or whatever, he'd be like basically each say Cumann will send two people to a kind of a local meeting with all the Cumans are represented at it, and basically that's where any problems with organization or something to do with the group's aims, if they're having problems, they'll meet, and someone from the next tier of the ladder will be there to say like what's the party line on this, answer questions, organize more efficiently, get groups working together if they need to work together, from different areas to accomplish a goal. Or you basically have a two-way information stream, like feedback going up the way and orders coming down the way, and it branches into, I suppose it narrows into kind of smaller and smaller groups, like say provincially, or if it goes by town and then county and then province, and then you have the national leader or leadership, whatever structure it is. Like you can have different leadership structures. Like you can have basically a guy at the top, or you can have a board. And there's a few things about the actual functioning of a common, which it's kind of like it doesn't sound fun, basically, like. But the thing is that from my experience, that there's certain kind of traditions and a bit of kind of, it's not really pageantry because it's effective, like, but it's like a bit of dressing, on this idea of the common system. And basically the idea would be that there is like Edmund Burke, or whatever you call him, the guy that Burkean is named after. He came up with this term back in 17 something about the British Parliament, and he called it a deliberative assembly. And basically what that is that you kind of have a couple of rules to kind of to shape the kind of point of deliberating. Like, it's not just a load of chickens clucking, there's a point to it. And you have a kind of a form of standardized speaking. It's like you hear people in meetings saying, "Oh, through the chair," or like if in the British, I'm probably explaining this too much, but in say the British Parliament or in the Dáil even same general principle, they'll say Mr. Speaker or like through the chair or whatever. It's you're not directly talking to anybody, you're talking to the meeting, and then it's through the chairman who basically makes sure that it's not going off topic. He can say, right, this is pointless what you're on about, we're not going to discuss that, or he can say, he can try and like reword things to try and keep it on track, or it's a good skill, it's a great skill, like to be able to be an effective chairman. Like you can make basically a group of people that aren't very effective far more effective by being able to lead the group. Like while this is going on, this chatting and debating and deciding what has to be done, you have the secretary. Like usually it's different people that do this, but it could be the same person. Like it's a lot of work, but the secretary is basically the guy that's taking minutes of the meeting. He's recording what's going on, what was discussed, even if it's completely thrown out afterwards. He'll write down like, "Oh, we talked about, will you buy bags of crisps?" Stupid example, but whatever it'll do. He'll write down like, "Oh, well, we were talking. Someone raised the idea of buying bags of crisps. We had a vote. We voted against it." And that way, then, if it ever comes up again in during a meeting, like, "Oh, I think we should buy loads of crisps," be like, no, like, there it is right there. We were talking about this the last day and we decided that we don't need crisps. But then you can move, like say I moved that we have another vote on buying the crisps. It's just this standardized approach to speaking that it keeps things as clear as possible in order to get a physical outcome from the decision making. That something is decided, that nothing's waffling constantly through the meeting. Like the chairman can say, "Right, that's enough of you've been talking too long, give someone else a go." The idea is that everyone is able to, like, if someone goes, "I move that we set up a subcommittee to sort out the finances," that basically everyone in turn can have a go, and you'll only have that person speaking again, what that made the decision, at the very end to give his point of view, after everyone else has been given the opportunity to speak, and then they can go around again if they want, like what, and then they'll have a vote on whether the subcommittee should start or not. And you can do that for, like, say, if a group needs membership, or if it needs to get funding or anything like this. Here you can set up a subcommittee, and basically whoever's running the Cumann, those three usually guys, the chairman, treasurer and secretary, that they can basically keep a firm eye on what's going on while not having to focus on the actual job being done. Like they can leave all the nuts and bolts and all that kind of crack to a capable member. And that's how you end up with people progressing through the part, the group, that they've shown that they're responsible, that they've been able to organise funding, that they've been able to recruit members, that they've been able to do this, do that, do the other, and they've shown themselves capable. And it's kind of a psychological thing too, that whenever you have a kind of a loose collective of people, and you kind of have it that everyone's doing the same thing, or everyone's kind of being told to do random jobs, like it does break down after a while. This is only mean about the difference between a good Cumann and a bad Cumann, is that there is a kind of a rigidity to it. It's not just like this ball of people that'll all just meet together and decide, "Oh, we'll all do this." Like that's from my experience, that's a surefire way that the whole thing's going to collapse. Like, so really ideally what you have is you'll set the agenda of the meeting, that you'll be able to dish out enough jobs to keep everybody working, that nobody has an excuse to be laying around. Like, and it is a kind of it is basically a military thing. But as long as people are feeling that they're useful and being utilised and benefiting the group, they will continue doing their job. But if they think, oh sure, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it because everybody's at it, they're going to not do anything. Like, and that's why you need to have, whenever you're between meetings, say, and work's being done that was decided at a meeting, that the first thing you do whenever the meeting starts is you go over old business. Like, like there's a few ceremonial things. Basically, the chairman will give kind of a quick rundown. Then he'll say like, "Oh, I was chatting Jimmy can't make it tonight. He sends his apologies." Then he'll go, right, secretary, or sorry, he'll go, right, what's the finances like at the minute? The treasurer will give a few, a bit of a rundown on how the finances are, bit of numbers, and then it'll go on to the secretary, and the secretary will be like, all right, you member, you were asked to do this job. How has that been completed in the meantime, or whatever? And the member then will give a rundown, of is it completed or did they not do it, basically. And that way, then there's a clear dividing line that there was none of this, oh, I thought so and so was doing that, or I didn't know that was my job. Like, that's just, that's playground stuff. Like, but yeah, basically that's the way the general gist of it is. Like, yeah, it has to be structured. I've seen this happening to numerous groups where it's kind of like this egalitarian, free for all, basically, like where everyone's kind of, oh yeah, but we all understand each other, but yet there's no actual physical substance to it, what they understand. Like, there's no like, right, this is the physical action I will carry out in order to, progress this group, like, So yeah, basically that's the fundamental, I suppose. It's basically it's as psychological as anything else, like, and it kind of gives this kind of, it benefits people, like, to feel like they are part of, like, obviously, even in the name a movement, people need to be moving. Like, there's no point, you can discuss till the cows come home, and yeah, it has its benefits. Like, you can go way off, and there has to be a bit of actual physicality to the whole talk, like, and that'll be, like, say if you were trying to get something organised at the county council, like, if you want permission to do something that you need their permission for, who's actually making the phone call, who's organising the material, or the actual hands to get the job done, like, who's whipping by, who's ringing fellas, like, first thing in the morning, going, right, today's the day, are you definitely coming, like, that kind of crack. Basically the foreman, like, who's running the show. And yeah, let's see now. Look, I think we looked through the chat as I'm kind of rambling here, but yeah, Captain Thielen, sign off on the minutes, make sure they're all correct. Basic committee structure, yeah, chairman, secretary, treasurer, yeah. Yeah, well, the egalitarian model doesn't work. Like, that's basically why you end up with all these kind of fucking, hippie communes all falling out with each other, ending up like Jonestown and stuff. Everyone's in it together with one leader, But it speeds up the whole process, like, because, like, even if there's a minor problem in a Cumann, instead of them running around looking to find who the hell sorts this stuff out, even if it's just one member, they just go to their secretary and ask them what's going on, or what's meant to be going on here. And the secretary will explain it. And if the secretary can't explain it, he can just go up a level to, like, the guy that's in charge of the region, and he can get it explained to him. And if he can't get it, if it's like a question that, oh, well, we haven't actually thought of this yet, then he can just go up to the, who's ever leading the group, and say, right, we need a decision on a policy or whatever, if it's important. Otherwise, you can just say, here, forget about that and go back to work. Like, and it's a kind of a, you do get weak links and stuff like that, but this is why you have little subcommittees of like a couple of guys going off, you know, trying to find members and stuff like that, or trying to raise money. That it can it can it shows who is the most responsible. So basically, someone's slacking off, they can just drop them down back into whatever role below them, and put the other guy in and try him that way. You know, usually like in a strong common system, you'll kind of have like people that have like little proteges and stuff like that. You know, but like a more senior member doing a job will kind of bring someone in to help them out, be their assistant basically. That if the more senior member isn't there, that the other guy can fill in for him for a while. You know, just it makes the whole thing solid. Like that, it's not going to collapse if people just like, if half of the group just don't turn up. That it still is able to function. Like you know, but it'll be just trying to think there. Like I had a piece of paper here actually. I wrote stuff down. Oh yeah, expanding. Like say now if you have a common and you've only one in the entire province, like say you have a common in I don't know Galway City, but you've no other common in the whole province. Like, so what do you do there? Well, generally you will decide like say, oh well, we have two members from Tuam that come down here. So what you'll do is you'll say to the two guys in Tuam, do you think that you could get a common going if we help you out in Tuam to work with the one in Galway? So what you do is you send them two guys off as what's called a working group. And that working group then will basically constantly report back. They're like a subcommittee basically. But they'll constantly report back, oh we got another member, or you know, there's something we can do that will get this job done. They're basically just a one-track mind to get another common started. So that basically, once they have enough members, say for example 6 or 8 members in the Tuam area, that they can branch off and become another common. And if it fails, that's grand. They just keep coming back to the Galway meeting, and he's trying to work it then, like trying. Oh, there's a member in wherever fucking way in Connemara, like he can try and get something sorted. So we'll give him a hand to get a working group going, you know. But it's just a constant. It's like a tree grows up, drops a load of acorns. Some of them will sprout, some of them won't. Some of them will die off after the sprout. Some of them will survive and grow to drop off more acorns, you know. And that's the idea until you have a common in every town and village across the country, all working effectively with each other, all linked in by the hierarchy of the hierarchy of the party or the group. That until virtually like you have a national network of a national system of people on the ground, no matter where it is in the country. And yeah, it's like it is a simple enough system, like, but it's there's a lot of pitfalls like that you won't even foresee in the beginning. Like you'll think it's all great, like we're all in this together and all this kind of crack. But like I remember I often got told the saying that the easiest way to bring people together is to give them someone to mutually hate. Do you know, like if you think of what you call him, Goldstein in 1984, like, you know, everyone is together, all the pros, because they hate him. Or even like saying an American war film, they're in training camp and the drill sergeant is a pure ass, like, and everyone hates him, like, you know, because he's hard on everybody. But that's him driving together that group, like that's all psychological. You know, so you need basically a real ass, basically, like, that knows what he's doing, like that isn't an ass for the sake of it, that he knows, right, well, I'm not going to be particularly liked in this role, but it has to be done, like, you know. That's one way of doing it, like, you know, there's other ways, but I've found that you know, having one kind of, you know, heavyweight arsehole is probably the simplest way of doing things, you know. And they're generally someone that knows that they're going to go up the way anyway, like, you know, that they can kind of be friendly, but turn on the fucking pressure whenever they need to. But yeah, the being able to organise into an effective group, it does depend on attendance, you see. And the thing is that you don't actually need everybody at the meeting. All you need is people to make decisions that have the the ability and the authority to make those decisions. And say the national leadership, obviously they can decide whatever the hell they like. That as long as the members are kind of don't vote over it. Then you'll have like if you have a regional um, level of administration and below the leadership. But they'll have a lot of that. A lot of you know the nuts and bolts of how to do stuff. They'll have it under their what's the word under their oh Jesus, words fail me. It'll be at their choice basically. If my English is absolutely atrocious, but they'll have the deciding factor on what's good and what's not, and that'll be dictated to them by the leader. Then below that you have the commons. So whatever the regional person, basically says, right, you're allowed to have this much rope. Don't hang yourself, basically. Then they'll take on the rest of the work then that needs to be done, like the organisation of into regional groups and all that kind of crack. And this whole system, it can work on very small groups right across the country, or it can work with very large groups that are all over the place. It's so scalable, but it's just that there has to be a bit of a kind of a seed of knowledge at the beginning. Behest, I think that came through my head as well, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure. Behest, thanks Tebow. But yeah, it's just a little bit of understanding, because I've seen it in different groups that you have basically maybe someone with the best of intentions, but they're away, they're going on about stuff, and it's just like, could you just calm it? Just cool the jets for 5 minutes till we get this actual practical work out of the way. But obviously then, if it's two people on a completely equal footing with nobody really kind of with the job of overseeing what's going on, it leads to friction. That's once you get friction, you're going to get heat. And once you get it to enough heat, the whole thing will burn down. So having a clear process of fixing these decision making gaps basically, and being able to say, right, well, that's either not on the agenda at all for this group, or it's not a priority, or it is a massive priority and we should be doing it right now. There has to be at least one person, could even be a group, that are deciding that. But having everybody having all their input all the time in a kind of a disorganized fashion, it just never works. I don't think it's ever worked in the history of mankind. I couldn't think of any order tends to disorder. But yeah, so basically it gets to the stage where you have boots on the ground, general membership, and they're you don't need to be bringing all those people together. It goes back to the secretive kind of nature of some of these common groups, in the past, that basically you had a couple of guys, say in an IRB service unit or an IRS service unit, whatever, that they're 2 or 3 guys out of that whole unit, out of that whole squad, whatever, can come together and be able to make the decisions that the whole group will follow. And that, so basically, say if there's a dozen in the group, you can get 3 people together and that's it sorted. Other members can contact one of them people and say, oh, could you bring this up at the next meeting? But there's no actual need for them traveling the whole way to a meeting in order to just say one thing that they want to say, and it limits, some people don't want any part in the decision making process or how it's going to, the nuts and bolts of how they just want to do it, and that's grand, but obviously they're not going to be the type of person that's going to want to kind of progress as the thing goes on. But like everyone has their strengths, like, and being able to use those strengths in the group is the most fundamental. The most fundamental thing that a group can do in order to strengthen itself. And it's like to be able to have a grid, basically, and a growth strategy, even for a small group. Like, say if you've 2 or 3 guys around you, you should really be kind of like looking at the whatever kind of common you're a part of, and kind of thinking, can we expand on this? Like, can we get another common going down here and make sure that it's run correctly and that it's run, efficiently, that it's getting things done, it's not causing any problems for anyone. And that's the whole idea of the common system. It's just it's natural growth constantly. That if sometimes a bush needs a bit of a pruning back, all right, like, if it's gone bloody mad, but generally, if you have a good couple of guys at the top of the group, they'll be able to say, right, well, this isn't working at all here, so we're just going to start cutting that out of it. But we're going to focus on this area over here, and that way, then, like, it's people management, team management, that you're able to bring them in back into the fold, doing the thing that is actually benefiting, and ignoring this kind of, I won't go on a rant about what's going on at the minute with regards to, court cases or funding and all this kind of crackness. But, maybe I might do one later on. But at the minute, I don't think it's too beneficial, really. But, yeah, that's just the bare bones basic of a common system. And I think it's just something you have to learn by doing too. Like, if you can replicate it, like, if you have a good idea, basically, but the easiest way to learn is to do it. Like, and sometimes if you're using kind of like a more formal language in order to kind of convey ideas and stuff like that, it can be a bit kind of like, but it's not always set in stone. Like, as long as it's generally understood what you're saying, and there isn't really any, way to misinterpret what's being said, because that, obviously will affect your efficiency. That could cause a big problem. Like, so yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. I might do another video maybe on like what I was on about the Gaelic Ireland, like, and the structure of the leadership of the country or something, whenever through the different electoral areas and local electoral areas and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope I wasn't rambling too much. It was about a half an hour, so yeah, sure. Sound out. Chat to you later.